Hey, today on the Invisible Strength podcast, we are joined by Tanisha Hippie Norman. She's a powerhouse both on and off the football field, as she was a former captain and defensive back for the Seattle Majestics in the Women's National Football Conference. She's since transitioned to supporting youth sports in her community, and she's a fierce advocate for lupus as her dad is navigating the disease. Needless to say, she's an example we can all learn from. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and thanks for having me, both Karen and Chris. Super excited to talk about, some of my experiences, and I'm happy you were able to share yours too, Karen. Hockey player, battling with lupus for 17 years. I know how hard it is for my dad just to get up with lupus, so to be
Yeah.
playing and being active, I commend you 1,000 times as well.
Thank you. But hockey was not an easy sport to navigate. Being a
Mm-mm.
female back in the day, it's much more accepted and popular now. So
Mhm.
I'm very curious to get into your experiences navigating those different challenges or hurdles getting into football.
Yeah. Definitely some hurdles, especially as football is not still as popular. Women's football is not as popular. Flag is, but tackle is
Right.
still on its way. So yeah, definitely was an experience.
Mhm, mhm.
Tanisha, when people ask who is hippie, how do you describe the version of yourself you've grown into today?
Yeah, I think the old version of hippie before I got the nickname hippie in college, as people would have known me as Tanisha throughout my elementary, middle school, and even high school years. I think that people would have said I was very timid, very shy, reserved into myself, not very outgoing at all. And I think the issue was that I didn't have a lot of confidence growing up versus the hippie that people see now, where they can say I'm pretty outgoing. I'm usually in the front row of being a leader. Love talking to people, love doing things like this. Just kind of have grown into that confidence and saying, hey, I'm able to do this. And I think my experience throughout football and just being able to mentor and be a support for all the girls in sports has really given me that confidence. So I always tell the girls out in the community when I see them in their football pads or they're at the game supporting me that they're my biggest inspirations and my biggest like why and the biggest reason of why we see the hippie that we see today.
Yeah, I know that you honed your craft at Middle Tennessee State. Talk to us about that music background and how it helped you shape the way you handle pressure, your confidence that you talked about, but also just staying grounded, particularly with all that you got going on in life right now.
Yeah, so I actually started playing the violin in 5th grade. And the way that it happened is I'm from originally from Memphis.
Huh?
So, as you know, we don't have a lot of access to like sports and even music programs. But
Yeah.
at the time, there was a little orchestra playing in the hallway. And on my way in between going to classes, I was one of those kids that was, always getting sent from the class. Hey, Tanisha's acting
Mhm.
up. Please take her somewhere. And so I
Uh-huh.
was roaming the hall one day and I heard the music instruments. And I stayed and watched and watched, and I begged my parents, like, "Can I please join the orchestra?" And I
That's
begged and
awesome.
begged, and they signed off on the slip, and I just joined the orchestra in 5th grade and played the violin. Again, music programs and things like that in Memphis wasn't a lot of support. We ended up practicing in, like, a little closet at some point, and most of the kids fell off from doing it, but I ended up sticking with it because I was so passionate about it,
Mhm.
and it really led me into a really great career in music. I was going to career and performing arts schools for middle school and high school and taking that experience and going off to college, something that most people in my family did not do, especially no one in my family played music instruments either. So they didn't know
Right,
what this
right.
would turn into or how this even went.
For
So I
sure.
kind of had to navigate it on my own. So like get into symphonies. I didn't major in music, but I knew that this was going to be my way to pay for college. And so I had to set up my auditions. I had private lesson. I ended up being in the symphony, the jazz band, the jazz combo, the Murfreesboro Symphony at one point as one of the youngest and only person of color. Just this long history of music that I did not expect to happen, especially from just starting in middle school or high school or in elementary school playing the violin. And I tell people all the time as a musician, I used to get on stage and I had the worst stage fright. I
That's
had the worst
real.
stage fright.
That
Like
is
there
real.
was never a time where I got on stage and was like, I have this. It was
Right.
always like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, they're about to look at me. Because on the stage, there was lights, everyone's looking at you, especially in a jazz band as a
Come
bass player.
on.
You are the heartbeat of the band. If you're
Yeah.
not performing well, if you're like nervous enough to not be on beat, I'm the metronome of the band. And so I always
Real.
had stage fright. And I think that really prepared me for football, where again, the light is on you, especially as a defensive back. There's going to
Mhm.
be times where you mess up and, it's all on you. And I
Yeah.
really think my experience as a musician and throughout, my years playing on the big stages really helped me out when I became a football player many years later, because I felt a little bit more confident. I had already been in that spotlight before.
You mentioned having that stage fright and being timid growing up. What gave you the courage to keep showing up even though you were scared to do that and all the lights were on you?
Yeah. I think I always felt like me showing up in these spaces would inspire other people. Orchestras and symphonies, you don't see people like me. At that time, I had a mohawk too. I had shaved sides of my head, really tall mohawk, and you didn't just see a lot of women, first of all, playing bass, double bass, and you didn't see a lot of people of color in these spaces. So I always felt like, I deserve to take up this space, and
Yeah.
hopefully this inspires another little girl to say, hey, I want to play the double bass. I want to be in the
Mhm.
symphony. I want to be in the jazz band. And so that was always like my way of keep pushing of like, I may be a little bit nervous and like this is really hard for me right now, but one day this is probably gonna inspire some girl to come and pick up the double bass. And the same with football. It was hard transitioning into football, but I always say, this is gonna probably be my chance to inspire girls to do something cool like this too.
I love that you talk about your life as a potential source of inspiration. How does, because that's not everyone's lens on themselves. A lot of people just live just for themselves, but talk to us a bit about how your understanding of yourself as a leader translates in everything you do, not just in music, but also, with the captaincy with the Seattle Majestics, like all of the ways in which you move through the world as a leader.
Yeah, I don't think that I realized that I was the leader until recently, actually.
Yeah.
I was talking to my coworker. So in January, a guy had a heart attack next to me on a treadmill. We did some CPR, AED work, was able to save his life. And I got an
Amazing.
award from the Tacoma fire chief and everything. And I remember telling my coworkers, like, I cannot believe that I did that. Like, I cannot believe that because the Tanisha and hippie that I know growing up would have never, ever been put in a situation like that or even acted in a situation like that. And it took my coworker here recently telling me, like, hey, from the 5 years that I've known you, I think you've grown into a tremendous leader. So I'm not shocked. No one was shocked that I did that. So I think
Yeah.
hearing someone else saying that, like, sparked something in me, like, hey, I actually am a leader, and I could actually do some really cool things with my life and continue to inspire others. Because I didn't realize this is what's happening. So it took someone else's outside perspective to be telling me that I was a leader and say, hey, actually, we're not shocked at all that you did this. You're a tremendous leader. And that little push was like, okay, maybe I can use this for the best.
Very much so. You've been forging new paths your whole life. Have there ever been periods of uncertainty where you're like, oh, maybe I can't do this? And if so, how have you navigated that?
Yeah, well, in music, I had a lot of times where I feel like I couldn't do this, especially as a person who was not in the music program, in the music program, So you're
Hmm.
surrounded by people who is breathing and living music every single day of their life. And then there's me coming in here with the bass on my back, uh, psychology major, doing my courses over here and just taking up this space. So there's a lot of times I feel like, oh man, like, music may not be my thing. There's a lot of people who really are taking it seriously. And the same thing with football. Like my rookie year, I got no playing time because, of course, you're new to football, and this is my first time playing any sports. And I was also like super tiny. I was 115 pounds, determined to play tackle football.
Come
And at that
on.
point, like after my rookie year, I actually, after the last game, I packed up my helmet and my pads and my jersey, and I was determined to turn it in. I never come back the next season. I was not coming back because I had felt in my bones that football was not for me. And so it took a veteran of the team to say, hey, I think you should reconsider. I think you really have what it takes to excel in this space. And you should put those pads back on. And so there was a lot of times where I felt like maybe this is not for me. And even now, just transitioning from putting on my super suit on the field every single Saturday during the springtime to now, you know, transitioning out of football. Like, what am I going to do now? I don't have my super suit to wear anymore. People are still think I'm cool. Am I still gonna be able to take up the spaces that I do right now? And so transitioning to this era of my life of giving and leading women in sports and here in Seattle. So And still right now, I'm always like, is it going to work out for me? Just keep on pushing. So yeah, definitely a lot of the times where I feel like, I don't know. I don't know.
I think what's so powerful about that is I think greatness is exactly about that. Like I'm hard pressed to think about anyone who, they took off and they never had any setbacks, they never doubted themselves. We see time and time so many profiles where folks have that sense of I was going to give up, but then I persevered. Talk to us a bit about your relationship with your family and the role that they played in shaping who you are today. So the instinct, they said you could go ahead and play music. There's a lot of kids who would have brought that same thing to their family. They're like, no, we don't want to hear all that noise in the house. Like, talk
Yeah.
to us a bit about who they are and how they help shape who you are.
Yeah. So my biggest inspiration and probably my biggest cheerleader is my dad. Ever
Awesome.
since I was a little girl, I was always that tomboy that wanted to ride the four-wheelers and ride the horses and
Yeah.
do all these tough things and play with the boys. And my dad never at one point was like, oh, no, she shouldn't do that. She's a girl. He was always like, you should watch out for her because my girl is just as badass as any of those boys and she could probably beat them all up. And
Yes.
so like when I decided to be a football player, there were so many people in my family that were like kind of like laughing at it. They were like, no, like, cause they know me.
Hmm.
They're like, oh, like, no way. And when I told my dad, he was like, oh man, like he was so excited. He got jerseys and my stepmom got the jerseys. He
Yeah.
watches the game, he's in Tennessee. So the time period is off. He stays up a little bit later. And he just always instilled in me that if I'm going to do anything, do it my best, like try my best and do it the best of my abilities. And then at the end, if you failed or you don't succeed at it, at least you tried your best. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, he was always my biggest supporter. Even now, he calls me and he wants to hear about all the things I'm doing in the community. I send him all the pictures of all the events and stuff like that. Even to like the Lupus organization, he was really, I mean, I don't think he was shocked that I went that far to support
Hmm.
my dad, but he was like, oh man, this is like the coolest thing. He's always like, I have the coolest daughter.
It's awesome.
I would say so. You do.
Right?
He does have the coolest daughter. I'm
Telling you.
impressed.
Telling you.
Can you walk us through when you first started to notice that something was off with your dad and the start of his health journey and where you were at in your life?
Yeah, so my dad has always complained for, I can think of many years, at least 10 years of the severe pain that he had in his knees. And we always tell my dad is a super active person. He's always outside cutting grass. He's just active. And so we always chalked it up to like, okay, you've done a lot today. Your knees are hurting. He had these like little knee things he put on and rested, and we just, knew how to kind of handle it. It wasn't until when I was into my second year of playing football. So I'm just finally getting the groove of playing football.
Right?
At this point, I have moved to Seattle from Tennessee, so we're 1,000 miles away. And he's like constantly calling me about his knee, like, hey, I'm having to go to the doctor pretty often to get him drained. They're trying to figure out what's the problem with him and things like that. And so, in my point of my life, I'm panicked because I'm trying to start a football career. And now something's really wrong with my dad. And he's not like 5 minutes up the street or even an hour away.
Come on.
It's a 4 hour, 5 hour flight. 2,000 miles in between us. And so, when he finally got the diagnosis of lupus, it was like, what? Like, we had never heard of anyone in our family having it. And so it was in the middle of the season for me as well. No, he was super scared. He was literally calling me every day, which my dad doesn't do. And so, yeah, it was a point in my life where I was like, man, I should just pick up everything and go back home right now. And it was actually my parents that was like, no, like you are doing your thing. We're going to handle it here and keep you in the loop. And shortly after his diagnosis, and I decided not to go home, I actually had our last game here in Seattle on the home field and I dislocated my elbow. And so this is my very first injury ever away from family, and my dad is going through this sickness. And so it was a very hard time for me. It was super hard because I was again battling this injury, battling this news from my dad, and also figuring out how can I get back to the field as fast as I can.
That's just a lot to handle at one time.
All at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. How did you process it? How did you work through that period with so much uncertainty?
Yeah. Immediately when I started to notice that I was kind of withdrawing, because I was like the person on the team who showed up at every single practice. Every
Right.
single extra work, anything that y'all needed me to do, I was there. And I had when I dislocated my elbow, I pretty much stopped doing that. It took my
Yeah.
friends picking me up and saying, come on, let's go to practice. Let's be around the team. I know you can't be on the field, but let's just be there. And that's when I looked into getting a therapist. I found a really great career therapist that I worked with throughout all my injuries and this
Mhm.
whole situation going on with my dad and his diagnosis with lupus. And it was just a place for me to be able to like express how I was feeling. And even if I like, the therapists, they can't say if they, feel me or if they don't understand or things like that. But just having a sounding board to get that off of my chest and off of my shoulders and provide me some insight and say, hey, you're doing really well, like handling this. These are ways you can do better. And my dad, I thank God for him. He's not unlike most men who hates going to the doctor.
Right.
He went to every single doctor appointment. He went to every single specialist appointment. He was very involved, and he involved me into it as well. It also really hit home that, like, this is serious and I could possibly lose my dad from it. Because my dad had some very tough conversations, like, "Hey, I have to make a will, and this is how it's gonna go. Hey, we just bought a house here, and, we don't want you to have to take care of a house from 2,000 miles away, so this is what will happen if this was to happen."
Yeah.
So just like almost like a grieving of my dad while he was still alive, I was super sad, like, of this possibility of, like, wow, like, my dad isn't gonna live forever. He's not this superhero, immortal person that I thought he was.
Mhm.
He's actually gonna like possibly pass away from this disease. So yeah, very troubling time. And yeah, I definitely invested a lot of money in a really good therapist that I
Right.
feel like connected with me. Finding a career therapist was super important too.
How has this experience, especially the ways in which your dad has articulated your responsibility and the ways in which you've witnessed your dad demonstrating a strength and a pushing forward, how have all of these things helped shape your sense of purpose and the way in which you're moving through the world and using your platform?
Yeah, I think it shifted in a huge way. Because I realized that with my platform, my voice, and me being this leader in the community, I have a chance now to put more eyes on the disease and talk about my experiences, just share realness. People see athletes on the field and they think like nothing ever happens to this person. And they're just living a great life. They're great on the field. She's a captain on the team. She's in the and all these cool things. And they don't realize that on the other side of this, all these things are happening. And so I definitely try to use my platform to be just as authentically me and honest and share that this is going on and make it real. And let people know that it's okay to go through these moments and to struggle. But also, how can you use your position in order to kind of shine a light on the things that's happening around you? And so with my partnership with the Lupus organization, I had no idea that it would turn into what it turned into. It was just me wanting to get eyes on this. And it turned out to be a campaign where I started to hear from other players in the league who are playing football with lupus. And they're like,
Amazing.
thank you for shining a light on this. Thank you for, doing this, I really appreciate you. And I heard so many great stories. I met so many great advocates with the lupus organization, and they provided so many supports for my dad as well. And so that was really my biggest thing and why I wanted to do the partnership. Kind of selfishly, I wanted to find as many supports for my dad as he's
No
battling this
doubt.
disease. And so I was
Yeah.
like, I can use my voice and what I do well, which is partnership and development, and connect, and maybe they can share something with me. So I definitely try to use my platform and my voice again to find that help for my dad, but also to let people know that these things happen and there's nothing to be ashamed about because you didn't choose to have lupus, or we didn't pick some out the bag and say, hey, this is the disease that I'm going to get. But how can we continue to help and, make sure that people are aware that this is going on? Some people may be battling lupus and not even realizing it because they don't know a lot about the disease. So definitely want to use my platform that way.
I appreciate your openness because once you do start to share your story, all of a sudden, all these people come out of the woodwork about how they can relate. And I definitely had periods of this, and we've heard this within the community that people feel so isolated. But then you lift your chin up and you share your story, and all these people are going through similar things. It's really remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is remarkable, especially the lupus community. They have been nothing but supportive and honest and helpful. And You know, you don't even realize there's like kind of like a man cave where they have all the men come
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Hey, Dad," you know, because that's one thing he kept saying he was struggling with. Like, no one understands like what I'm going through. Like he was talking about my stepmom. Like she doesn't understand how hard this all is, especially with
Right.
how active he is and all the things that he do. Triggers lupus. He
That's
wants to be
it.
out in the sun. You
Oof.
can't do that, Dad.
No,
You
no.
know, the place that he works has these fluorescent lights. You can't do that, Dad. You know, it's really high intensity and
Yeah.
humid. You can't do that, Dad. You can't be out there at all times of the day and, you know, working in the yard. So, yeah, that was an overall cool experience.
I love that you lifted up the man cave. Shout out to the great work that they're doing. And as you already know, and our listeners may already know, like, we're talking about 10% of those who live with lupus are men. So it's even within the community of lupus, generally, if you're someone with lupus, it can be hard for folks to understand. And then when you add that layer of social location as a man, and just the ways in which, we're socialized as men, and so much of how we're grieving that loss of socialization adds a whole nother layer to that challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just wanted to ask you, in light of all you and your family's experience, and particularly, your dad's experience, there are so many caregivers who feel overwhelmed, who feel helpless. I would say, as someone who lives with lupus, I think at times it's almost harder to see the person you love go through this than it is to experience it yourself. What sort of message or encouragement would do you want to share with folks at this time?
One, to build a really good communication between you and that person with lupus. Because again, I don't have lupus, so I don't know what it is, the whole situation that he has to go through with the specialists and the talking to doctors. I think that what was super helpful was whenever my dad's specialist would send him some information about something, he would send it immediately to me so I can research it and look into it as well. So that communication, I think, really made it super easy for me to say, okay, this is what he's battling. This is some of the things that he may be going through. Was able to research and say, "Hey, Dad, maybe you shouldn't eat this, and try
Mhm.
to eat this." Or, "Hey,
Mhm.
Dad, you should keep a really good log of like I know now what you're supposed to be doing."
Right.
So, like, we're both on the same page. "Hey, Dad, you're not supposed to be drinking beer. Let me go in here and check out, you know, what's in your garage because I know that you're not supposed to have it." So that
Right.
communication really just helped it out a whole lot. And just also like him being brutally honest about what the possibility could be. We know that a lot of people do not make it with lupus,
Right.
or whether that's because of the treatments, the lack of treatments, or just
Mhm.
the lack of knowledge about the disease that they have. And so that tough conversation, even though, you know, it messed me up and I was super sad for a
Oh, of
while just thinking
course.
about the possibilities, it helped me prepare of like, you know, what is the possibilities? And then also the good possibilities of like he's taking these different pills. He lets me know like, hey, I have to take this amount of pills in the morning. You know, 2,000 miles away, I probably would never see all these pills. And he tells me every single time he calls me whenever he's getting his treatments, his UV treatments and stuff like that. He calls me right after, like, hey, this is how I went. This is how it's feeling. And when he changes medications, he let me know, hey, change medications. 2 weeks, you're gonna see how it works. And usually, he tells me his symptoms. Hey, it usually works really great the first 2 weeks, and then after that, you know, I get some aches here, and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And so we're both kind of like on this whole plan together. You know, I'm pretty much going through this whole thing with him just without experiencing the physical things, and the really emotional things, such as like, you know, him not being able to feel like he's being heard. But yeah, I think that communication is very important. I know it's hard. That's the hardest thing because you don't want to talk about the what else. You don't want to talk about the treatments. You don't want to talk about, you know, taking 20 pills a day, especially when this is your loved one. But it's so
Yeah.
important because it can really make them feel heard and feel like there's somebody in this with them, and, you know, just prepare you for what's to come.
I want to highlight that simply validating what someone is going through and trusting what they're communicating is commendable because some people are saying, yeah, that you don't understand, you're not going through it. But I hear you simply acknowledging whatever he's going through and communicating with him. That's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a really good relationship and we pretty much talk about everything. So that helps out too. Yeah, yeah. For him to be able to just share, like, man, I feel like no one is hearing me, and I'm like, hey, the man cave here. There's some support. It's like, you know, there's knowing that somebody else has his back and is willing to take some of those things off his shoulders because he already has to worry about medications and treatments and going to the doctor and, you know, this life changing thing happening to him. if I could just help out with finding a group, to
Yeah.
get real support, it means the world to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause there's so much of what allows people to persevere and just learn. We often talk about learning how to walk with a limp is knowing that you're not the only person in the world this is happening to. There's such an isolating effect that can occur when you first get diagnosed because most of us don't know anyone else who has this thing. And so it's just like, wait, what is this? And you're just in the shock. You weren't always sick before, or maybe, in your dad's case, it's like, now I understand what's going on with my knees, but I didn't think it was all this.
Yeah.
And just being able to have a community and having a support system, it just is life changing. So just want to give you your flowers for that, man. It's critical.
Yeah, yeah, and I just know important. To me, community is huge. Like I try to
Yeah.
form a community no matter where I'm at, and I've seen the power of community.
Hmm.
Like my gym, it's a bunch of retirement people, and people are like, "Why do you go to that gym? It's a community center. Why don't you go to LA Fitness?" I tell them,
Right.
it's community. It's the
Yes.
community, and when I
Yes.
there, everyone knows what I'm training for, and they tell me to have a great season. And even when I was injured, they're like lifting me up. So I know the power of community, and I feel like that would be like the best thing, especially when battling a disease like this.
Awesome.
Given that we're talking about community, I want to shift to your work in youth sports and that
Hmm.
transition from football and how you're supporting young athletes today.
Yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a ride. So, uh, have I have done a lot of work here recently with the King County Play Equity Coalition, which is a coalition that was based off of a study about the equity in sports and youth sports here in King County, Seattle. So they found all these findings, and they worked to make sure that every kid of no matter their age or their race or ethnicity have a chance and an equal opportunity to get into sports. So I worked with them with playing their first sampling and play day, which involved, the Seahawks and the Mariners and the Rain and things like that. And was opened up to about 150 kids to come and try out all these different sports for free. Because we know, like, as my story, I wanted to play basketball so bad
Yeah.
in middle school. Like I remember like walking past the gym and being like, man, I think I could hoop. Like, I told the
Yeah,
younger
yeah,
kid,
yeah.
"Hey, look, I can do this." And my parents were like, no, like, it's expensive, and we have to drive you back and forth to practices, and how are we gonna do that? And you're also in the orchestra, like, there's nothing more that we can add on to your
Yeah, yeah,
plate."
yeah.
And so I know how important, like, I know now that had I started playing basketball or any sport in middle school, I probably would have gotten so many scholarships because we see now that I'm disciplined and I'm athletic and I'm able to do this, and I became a captain and I was able to do this. But man, imagine if I was given that chance at a younger age. And so I think it's really important that, girls especially have that opportunity. People of color have that opportunity. And so working with them has been really cool. I did that Girls' Day in February, which was really cool. A lot of girls from all different type of ethnicities and races kind of come together, try new things. I was over the flag football little section. And just to see everyone was like, those girls are having fun playing flag football. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like that's the power of flag. Like it takes, $5 and a football, and you can enter into the sport. So it's really cool. And also, just like this weekend, I'm going to be at BMAC with the Seahawks doing a free EKG, a heart screening event for youth. And so, we see a lot of kids nowadays collapsing on fields, collapsing in basketball gyms and
Right.
stuff
Right.
because of heart issues. And so, better way we can prevent that and do some preventative things before those things happen, and also get them trained in understanding what is an AED. What can I do and what should I do in a situation that my teammate does pass out on the field? Just giving those little tips. Like I said, I didn't think it was going to be helpful for me, and it was. So just making this aware and available for all people to have access to is super important to me right now.
Absolutely. And I just think about the old expression, you can't be what you can't see. And just these young folks getting a chance to see you and just being inspired. I mean, you're just like larger than life, like a superhero in real life, like one of the Avengers out there with them playing flag football. So just being able to inspire them that way, that's a critical aspect of community work.
And that's the important thing to me too, because I remember like when I was inspired to continue to play in the bass.
Mm,
And the reason why I was inspired to continue that is because I saw Esperanza Spalding on the screen at the White House.
yeah,
And I was like, wait, she looks like me.
come on.
You know? She looks like me and she's in the White House.
Right.
And the same thing like right now with my current job. I work for a higher education college. And we just got an African American president. And I
Okay.
looked at her and she came out and said, oh, she looks like me.
Yeah.
You know, you understand those moments when you're inspired, and it's always been when someone that looked like me steps into a space that I thought I could never step into,
No doubt.
and I was inspired to keep on going. And so
Right.
I hope that I'm able to inspire the girls in the same way, and I always let them know that they are inspiring me every single day to do what I'm doing. When I go to their football games and I see them in their football pads on the team with the boys, man, I'm inspired.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't get that opportunity. I don't even think I would have asked hard enough as a middle schooler to play on the boys' football team.
Right.
And so to see them doing that and have that confidence and go out there and do that, I tell them all the time, hey, you are inspiring me to do what I do. You may think I'm larger than life and a superstar, but in my eyes, you are the superstar that is keeping me fueled. So yeah, it's really cool as it's like a cycle as it keeps on going.
Absolutely.
For sure. And as you see those kids, come into their own, everyone goes through their struggles, right? We've talked about some of your challenges growing up. How do you kind of help them navigate whatever insecurities that they're going through?
Yeah, so I've actually been doing this series with this group here called Z Girls. And what they do is they do a mentoring and series and they bring in different female and women athletes to talk to the girls about a different topic, something they may be struggling with. And every single time that I come on, I talk about failures. And I make sure that it is important that I talk about failures because I know they look at me as like, she does all
Mhm.
this basic, but they don't understand. And I want them to understand that in order to get to this point, you are going to fail.
Right.
You're going to have moments where you don't feel confident. You're going to have moments where it's going to be hard to keep pushing through. And giving them the tools and giving them the words of affirmation, I like to say, and the power of yet. That's what they teach them. Like, you may not be a football player yet, but, if you keep working and, you're going to go through these failures, you're going to probably be one if you continue to work at it. And so I think it's super important for groups like that to connect with people like me to talk about topics like that. Because again, it gives those girls that real life view of this is what it's like to be an athlete. This is what it likes to be a person just living. Because throughout life, you're going to fail at some point. And so I think it's so cool that I get to join with them. Like, this is my second time and the girls have been really responsible. They do it online and cool things like that. And the girls always learn so much. I get like the end of the report and the girls have all these comments like, I'll learn to like, it's going to be okay to fail. And that's my fuel. Like, let that be my fuel to keep going and to be better. And so, yeah, it's so cool, like, to be a part of those things. Cause again, the girls may see me and they see me on my Instagram and stuff like that. And like, oh man, she's so cool. She must never fail. And it's like, no, I come in here and talk nothing about my failures and, how I got to this point.
Right, right. It's so important that you do that because, there's something about, especially with social media, we just see the highlights and the skills that you're imparting in that space translate to whatever they're going to do, right? So even if you're not going to be a professional athlete, you still need this so much of those gems that you're dropping are going to help them on their journey and in their vocation. So I just think that's such incredible work.
Yeah, like I said, it's really cool to like see it all come together and like they have like little booklets and I tell them all the time like I don't just like use this booklet once for the series and like toss it off. I usually use it for myself or I give it to another girl when I'm out in the community. So that way they're learning something too.
It reminds me of that saying, you grow through what you go through. You can't keep it growing without those tough learning experiences. In the moment, it can be incredibly hard when you do feel like you're down and out. You were going to walk away from football. Thank
Yeah.
goodness you did not.
Right.
Can you talk about what invisible strength and what that means to you?
Yeah, I think the invisible strength to me is what are you doing when no one else is watching? I always say at the end of the day, you're battling yourself throughout this whole thing. No matter how much community you have and lean on and stuff like that, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. So I think my visible strength is how I'm able to keep cheering myself on in those tough moments. to remind myself like, hey, you got this. Like, you've done all these incredible things, or hey, you have the mindset to keep going for that invisible strength. Yeah. I think it's super important because you see a lot of people, with this loud confidence and things like that. And you don't realize that it takes a lot of invisible strength to get to that point. So a lot of self-talk, a lot of my journal is also like my, my invisible strength. I journal every
Yeah.
morning and every night, just little prompts. And it really helps me to just be grounded and thankful for the things that is happening. Like, even in this moment of like transitioning from football to being in the community and trying to get into, actually working in sports, like it takes a lot of invisible strength to keep going and, work through that. So yeah, definitely, my self-talk is my invisible strength.
Circling back to your dad's experience, were there any moments or periods of time where you noticed his invisible strength and the resilience he had to get through his lupus?
Absolutely. My dad is he is a very happy guy. Like, I don't think I've ever seen my dad like super angry, or like he's always helping people. And like throughout this whole experience, I expected him to be, I guess, a little bit more sad, a little
Yeah.
more down. And he never was. Even in moments where I was feeling down or sad about it, he was still like, like, we're gonna handle this. We're gonna take care of it one step at a time, and I'm gonna do what I need to do on my ends and make sure that this is easy process for y'all. And so I think that invisible strength for him was just like his gratefulness just to be like able to live the life that he has lived up to this point. And he tells me all the time, like, you made me already like 10,000 times proud. Like, so if I was to leave, like, I would already be leaving, like, super proud and things like that. So I think just his will to continue to be happy and joyful and grateful for everything around him just is mind blowing for me, because I don't think if on the flip side that I was diagnosed with lupus, that I would have been able to have that invisible strength like that. And I don't think he realizes how loud it is, and how much it allowed me to continue to be happy throughout this.
That's lovely. That's truly lovely. Just, you know, thinking about that level of endurance and just also it sounds like his ability to not only endure but also to continue to inspire you has translated so much into like who you've become and who you continue to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people like, when they see me helping people out all the time, I'm like, well, that's what I saw my dad do. Like throughout my whole life,
Right,
so
right,
it's like
right.
second nature to me. Like community. Like my dad was really big on community. Every single weekend I used to hate it as a kid. He used to wake me up early and take me to all his friends' house. And he has a lot of friends.
Yeah, yeah.
And, they all from different backgrounds than we were. And, I was like, man, like, I gotta sit out on the porch, all day long. We're not gonna do anything else, But he made sure it was important for me to see that, like, hey, yeah, we're doing a lot better now, but I have friends who have not gotten to this point who still need support.
For
I don't
sure.
need to just like, get up on my game and then be like, "Ugh, forget my friends."
Right.
And I've always seen whenever he goes over there, he buys all the snacks and he cooks all the food. And he never once complained. Well, I won't say he complained in private, but when he was doing it, he never once was like, but like
Yeah.
he was that person. If someone needed someone to go and cook 100 hamburgers today, he would pull his grill out right now and make all the burgers and make it up and serve them to every single person.
Wow.
I think it speaks to a lot of times with these conditions, you can feel isolated and a victim. But hearing you talk about community and how your dad interacted with community, I think it's so important to bring up the fact that once you get outside of yourself, it's much easier, at least for me personally, to just not have that self loathing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
many other people out there who need your support, like you're talking about, and being able to give back, it fills your cup. And it's just amazing to hear about you and your dad being able to be so involved in the community and getting out of just any personal challenges that you may have, not getting out of, but working through them.
Yeah, I think when I moved to Washington, like, yeah, I grew up in Tennessee. My dad took me to different places. We always drove, we never flew. So me moving to Washington was actually my first time on a plane. And as you cross over, you see all the mountains.
Right.
And you're like, wow, like what? And then I accidentally went to Mount Rainier and hiked pretty high up there to the point I could see pretty much everything. It was a clear day.
Wow.
And I think in that moment, I realized that everything that I was worrying about is like non-existent. Like non-existent when all this greatness around me exists. Just this greatness in nature that I'm able to witness every single day. So I think that was like one of my wake up calls is like moving here and like looking into the mountains and realizing like I'm this speck. I am this very tiny speck in all of this world. And like whatever I'm worried about or going through, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Put everything in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess when you consider where you are in your journey, like where do you like see yourself going? Like what are the next like zeniths and mountaintop moments that you're hoping for?
Well, I'm really hoping that, my job interview on Monday goes well and I'm able to put my hands on really expanding women coaches in the state of Washington.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really cool because we don't see that many women right now coaching, whether that's because they maybe not know about the opportunities or they're not being placed or the money isn't right for them. And so I really want to make that like my mission is like really get more women to sports, really making sure that they're heard and valued and they're provided some great opportunities and getting placed at places. And hopefully some of those coaches win some state championships and stuff like that and
for
going on
sure.
to maybe even coaching the NFL or the WNBA, just
Yeah,
elevating those women to understand that they're able to do this because, like y'all said before, it just takes a little bit of inspiration and just seeing other people in those positions to say, like, wait, I can actually maybe do this. And so
mhm,
I think that's like my next mountaintop is hopefully securing this job and being able to push that forward and make it important. And it's just also providing more opportunities for the youth to get into sports. Whether that's finding some ways to provide some free Seattle Seahawks flag team memberships because we know like $175 for I was looking to my son get into it and he's 8 and it would have
yeah,
cost him $175.
right.
Uh, if I thought about 8-year-old me and asking my parents to get me into that,
Ooh,
it would have been like it'll have to drive you to practice and you have to, it's a lot,
it's a
and
lot.
so providing some opportunities where maybe we can partner together and give them some free admissions into some sports like that, just chances to be a part of it. Because hey, that one free person may get into it and say, "I love flag football. I love football," and they may go be the next JSN. We
Come
don't know.
on.
We don't know until we try. And I think that again, if I had been given an opportunity like that in middle school, again, I tell my parents I probably would have paid for them a couple houses by now. If I disciplined and half athletic out there I am.
For real.
It's amazing work just because, as we've talked about, sports can teach kids so many valuable lessons: failure, perseverance, courage, showing up even when the lights are on you and you're scared. So appreciate you doing the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, you never know where any of these things were gonna go. Especially I work in partnership development and stuff like that. So you get a lot of no's. But when you find people who really are passionate about the same things you're passionate about, oh my gosh, it goes from like here to like 1,000 literally in 2 seconds. So I'm excited about those opportunities. And just being in the community has been super fun and cool too. Just seeing the girls' reaction to me, even though I'm not in my super suit anymore.
Yeah.
Seeing they're still like excited to see me and talk to me and play with me and those type of cool things. And yeah, just the volunteer experiences. Yeah, I'm enjoying that right now. And just my body's feeling a lot better. My knees feel a lot better too. So,
Awesome.
it's been a good trade off, I think.
Right?
Wonderful. I want to give you the opportunity to either touch on a topic that we haven't covered yet or just share a little bit more about your work and what you want to promote.
Not to promote, other than just, I want people to see my story and not only be inspired, but I also know that like people are real. We're real. We go through things
Yeah.
and to not be afraid to be unapologetically yourself. Like, you know, continue to shine in those moments. Use your platform for good. I think that's one thing I'm super strong on right now is any way that I can use my platform to promote other things like this and the Lupus organization and spreading awareness, go for it. You never know until you absolutely try your best. And you will be amazed of how many people see your mission and see you for who you are when you're just being yourself. And so I think that's the only thing I want to promote is just, being yourself and continue to spread joy.
Love that.
Same, you're full of just incredible insights and life lessons. If people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram as fucking hippie. So FCKN. And I think it's a dot hippie. And that name is because most people like when they get upset at me or they're trying to explain something to somebody, they're always like fucking hippie. And I think it's just the funniest thing that, at some point, if you get frustrated with me, whether it's on the field or if I scouted at you enough or, anything, you get mad enough to say that. And I absolutely love it. That means I'm doing a great job. So you can find me
Hilarious.
on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well as my name, Tanisha, Tanishia. Last name Norman. I love to connect with people and see all the cool stuff. Oh my gosh, LinkedIn. It's like all these people are doing all this cool stuff. And so yeah, add me on there, connect with me on there, and let me see some of the cool stuff y'all are doing.
For sure. You're a ball of energy. You're remarkable. Your story and your insights and how you view life is a great inspiration, especially in the youth sports space.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Truly an honor to talk to you. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Like I said, your story is inspiring me too because yeah, hockey is popular now, but I cannot imagine how unpopular it was 17 years ago and how much fight people were probably giving you about playing that. And I don't think I will ever play hockey because I'm scared of the skates. I told the BMX rider I was with 2 weeks ago that I will never do that. I think I would rather do BMX riding than to play hockey. So that
Man.
says a lot.
I would not go near a BMX bike. That would not be good.
No. No, no, no.
It's a lot of cool women out here doing some cool stuff.
For sure.
To that point, truly like amazing things. And I appreciate you elevating that because I think there's so many more opportunities out there now than there were before. And I appreciate you being that example for young women today.
Yeah, of course. Never gonna stop.
No doubt.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Chris. It's always a joy to have you a part of these conversations.
No, the feeling's mutual. This is so much fun. Thank you.
To our community, make sure you check out invigorateyourjourney.com for support groups, resources, coaching, and more. We're here for you in any shape, way, or form that you need. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Peace.